Time has a way of exposing truth. You don't have to say much. You don't have to prove much. You don't even have to fight for your worth when someone has taken you for granted. All you have to do is step back and let time move forward. Because time, unlike words, doesn't argue. Time doesn't negotiate. Time doesn't need permission. It simply keeps flowing, and in its flow it teaches value, it teaches perspective, it teaches loss. The problem in relationships, especially when emotions are running high, is that people confuse immediate reaction with long-term reality. In the moment, he may think he's fine without you. He may act like your absence doesn't shake him, like your silence doesn't sting. Pride and ego can put on a strong performance in the short run, but time is not on the side of pride. Time chips away at the show until only truth remains, and the truth is, the longer he goes without you, the heavier the absence becomes. You see, human beings are creatures of habit. We grow accustomed to what is consistent. When you were present, your presence, your support, your love, it became woven into the fabric of his daily life, even if he didn't fully recognize it. That's the irony of consistency. It's often invisible until it disappears. Like the air we breathe, we only notice its importance when it's gone. And once that realization sets in, it's not immediate regret that hurts. It's the gradual, deepening ache of understanding how much value was overlooked. Time is the silent teacher of value. It doesn't lecture him, it reveals him to himself. In the quiet moments, when distractions wear thin and the adrenaline of pride fades, that's when it hits him. The very things he dismissed, minimized, or assumed would always be there are suddenly gone, and with every passing day the weight of that absence presses harder. Think about it. When someone loses a good job at first, they might say, "I'll find another." They walk out confidently, as if opportunities are endless. But weeks turn into months, and the reality sets in. That job wasn't just a paycheck, it was stability, routine, identity. The longer the gap stretches, the more they recognize the worth of what they walked away from. Relationships work the same way. He may act like your absence is temporary, like he can shrug it off. But time does what time always does. It reveals reality, slowly and relentlessly. And here's the part most people miss. You don't have to speed the process. You don't have to rush in to remind him. You don't have to prove how much he's lost. That's not your work. That's time's work, and time never fails to collect its due. The longer the days stretch without you, the more the mind replays what used to be. And those memories don't stay gentle. They sharpen, they carry weight, they haunt. From a psychological standpoint, the absence of something once central creates what we call cognitive dissonance. The brain struggles to reconcile what it once had with what it now lacks. He knows life was richer with you in it, yet he's living in the void of that absence. That conflict creates pressure, and pressure, given enough time, always breaks down resistance. The very man who once said he didn't need you finds himself wrestling with the reality that life without you feels incomplete. But here's the deeper truth. This process is not just about him. It's about you. Because while time is teaching him your value, it's also teaching you your strength. It's showing you that you don't need to chase. You don't need to beg. You don't need to compromise your worth to be recognized. You can stand still. You can hold your ground, and you can trust that life has a way of revealing the truth without you exhausting yourself in the process. And when he finally comes to that point, when time has stripped away his pride and left him staring at the reality of what he lost, you'll have a choice. You'll be able to see clearly, from a place of strength, whether he deserves another chance or whether his awakening came too late. Either way, you win, because the power is no longer in his hands, it's in yours. So remember this, time doesn't need you to interfere. Time is always working, always moving, always teaching. Let time break him. Let time reveal the truth. The longer he goes without you, the more it hurts, and the more clearly you will see just how powerful your presence always was. Distance has a strange way of making things clearer. When you're close to someone, when they see you every day, when they hear your voice, your laughter, your presence, it's easy for them to underestimate it. Familiarity dulls appreciation. But when you step away, when your presence is no longer woven into their daily rhythm, that's when awareness begins to sharpen. Distance forces reflection in a way closeness never can. At first, he may try to convince himself he's fine without you. He may surround himself with noise, friends, distractions, work, even other people, anything to avoid the silence. But silence is persistent, and in that silence the mind begins to wander, and when the mind wanders, it almost always circles back to what's missing. Psychologically, this is what we call attention bias. The more something is absent, the more the brain fixates on it. It's like telling someone, "Don't think about the color red." Instantly, that's all they can see. That's what happens when you step back. He can't help but notice the space you once filled. Every reminder, every gap in the day where you used to be, pulls his attention toward you. This awareness doesn't come all at once. At first, he feels it in small ways. Maybe he goes to tell you something funny and realizes there's no one to text. Maybe he has a hard day and notices the comfort he used to lean on is gone. Maybe he's in a crowd but feels strangely alone. That's distance working on him, sharpening his awareness, pulling his focus back to the one thing he tried to ignore. You mattered more than he admitted. Now, let's be real. Men, in particular, often learn the hard way. Pride gets in the way of clarity. Ego gets in the way of truth. But distance cuts through pride in a way arguments never could. When you're standing right there, he can dismiss you, talk over you, pretend he doesn't care. But when you're not there, he has nothing to fight against. The only voice left in the room is his own, and that's the one he can't escape. And let me tell you, awareness in isolation hits different, because it's not you telling him he lost something valuable. It's him realizing it in the quiet, when there's no audience, no distractions, no excuses. That's why distance is so powerful. It makes the truth unavoidable. It sharpens what was blurred. Philosophically, this is the law of contrast. You cannot fully understand light until you've known darkness. You cannot truly value warmth until you've been cold. And you cannot grasp the depth of someone's presence until you've sat in the emptiness of their absence. That's what distance creates, a contrast so sharp it becomes undeniable. And here's the beauty. You don't have to force it. You don't have to try to make him see it. The longer you stay back, the stronger that awareness grows on its own. It builds like pressure. Every day without you, the gap feels bigger, the silence feels louder, the absence feels heavier. That's not weakness on your part. That's power. That's the power of stepping away and allowing distance to do what presence never could. Because here's the truth. People rarely learn when you're constantly there explaining, justifying, reminding them of your worth. They learn when you leave the space for reflection. They learn when they're forced to face themselves without you as the safety net. And in that space, awareness isn't just sharpened, it's seared into memory. Now, let me challenge you with this. Don't sabotage the process. Don't break the silence just to check if he's noticed. Don't step back in too early because you're afraid of what distance might do. Trust it. Let him sit in it. Let him wrestle with it. Because every time you step back in to relieve his discomfort, you soften the lesson, and the lesson must be sharp to last. So, when you feel tempted to reach out, remind yourself, awareness is building. When you wonder if he's forgotten you, remind yourself absence doesn't erase, it intensifies. When you doubt your strength, remind yourself, you are not powerless. Distance is working for you. In the end, this is about more than him. It's about you stepping into your power. It's about realizing you don't need to beg for recognition. You don't need to fight for attention. Awareness will come. It always does. Because distance is the mirror that shows him the truth, and the longer he goes without you, the clearer that truth becomes. Human beings only learn the value of something when they have something else to compare it to. Contrast is one of the greatest teachers in life. You don't really know joy until you've walked through sorrow. You don't truly understand freedom until you felt trapped. And you don't realize the weight of someone's presence until you've been forced to carry the heaviness of their absence. That's how life teaches us, through comparison, through contrast, through the sharp edges of what's missing. When you were there, your presence became part of the rhythm. The way you listened, the way you brought calm in chaos, the way your laughter broke through the heaviness of the day, it all blended into his life so seamlessly that he forgot it wasn't guaranteed. He assumed it was permanent. That's what people do. We grow comfortable with what's consistent. We stop noticing the gift in front of us because it shows up every day. But when that consistency is gone, the absence creates a contrast so sharp, so undeniable, that it pierces deeper than any words ever could. Think about how the sun feels after weeks of gray skies. You notice it differently. You appreciate it in a way you never did before. That's what happens in the emotional world too. When you step back, when your voice, your presence, your energy is no longer there, life feels darker by comparison. He notices the silence where your laughter once lived. He notices the emptiness where your support once stood. He notices the heaviness where your encouragement once lifted him. Every gap is a reminder. Every void is a contrast that teaches him what he lost. Here's the part that hurts the most. The contrast doesn't fade with time. It intensifies. At first, he may try to fill the silence with distractions. He may try to convince himself he's fine. But as time stretches, the contrast becomes unavoidable. That's why some of the deepest regrets in life don't come immediately. They build slowly. They grow heavier with every reminder of what once was and no longer is. Psychologically, this is rooted in what's called loss aversion. Research shows that the pain of losing something is far more powerful than the joy of gaining something new. We can gain 10 things, but the loss of one thing will weigh heavier in our memory. That's what he's facing. The absence of you doesn't get balanced out by other experiences. It lingers, it sharpens, it demands his attention, and this is why contrast is so powerful, because it doesn't just remind him of you, it magnifies you. The good moments you shared become brighter against the backdrop of loneliness. The stability you gave him feels stronger against the chaos of being without you. The love you offered feels deeper when measured against the emptiness he's left with. Contrast makes every detail sharper, every memory heavier, every regret more undeniable. Now here's where your strength comes in. You have to resist the urge to dull the contrast. Don't rush in to ease his discomfort. Don't step back in because you feel guilty for the lesson he's learning. If you do that, you soften the sharpness and the lesson doesn't stick. Contrast only works when it's allowed to fully form. He has to sit in the silence. He has to feel the emptiness. He has to face the weight of what's missing until it breaks down the walls of pride and ego. Philosophically, contrast is life's way of creating clarity. Without darkness, light has no meaning. Without absence, presence has no power. Without loss, love has no depth. That's why you stepping away is not weakness. It's wisdom. You're not punishing him. You're allowing life to teach him in a way you never could with words. And the truth is, some lessons can't be spoken. They have to be lived. So when you feel doubt creeping in, when you wonder if he even notices, remind yourself that contrast doesn't fail. He may not admit it, he may not show it, but internally the awareness is sharpening with every passing day. His pride may silence his words, but it cannot silence his experience. And experience is the greatest teacher of all. The longer he sits in the absence, the sharper the contrast becomes. And eventually that contrast turns into clarity. the clarity that you were never ordinary, the clarity that your presence was a gift, the clarity that losing you wasn't just a moment, it was a turning point. One of the most dangerous illusions people live under is pride. Pride tells you that you don't need anyone, that you can walk away and be just fine, that your ego is enough to sustain you. Pride is a mask. It looks strong, it looks confident, but underneath it's fragile. And time has a way of exposing that fragility, because pride might hold up for a moment, but it cannot hold up forever. Pride crumbles under the weight of time. At first, when you step back, he might walk tall. He might act like he's unaffected. He might even say things to himself like, "I'm better off." That's pride talking. Pride always needs the last word. It always tries to write a story that covers up the pain. But pride is like paper armor. Looks good from the outside, but the longer it's tested, the easier it tears. And when time gets involved, time has no problem tearing straight through it. See, pride thrives in the short term. It's powerful in the immediate moment. It gives people the courage to slam doors, to say things they don't mean, to act like nothing phases them. But pride doesn't have endurance. Time has endurance. Time is steady, relentless, unbothered. And when time goes to work on pride, it always wins. This is why you don't have to argue with him. You don't have to chase him down, begging him to see your worth. Because when you try to fight pride with words, you lose. He'll only defend it harder, hold onto it tighter. But when you step back and let time handle it, pride slowly weakens. It starts to eat at him in the quiet moments. It starts to whisper, "What if you were wrong? What if she was more valuable than you admitted? What if you pushed away the very thing you needed most?" And those whispers only grow louder with time. Psychologically, pride works like a shield. It protects the ego from feeling pain, but the shield isn't unbreakable. Over time, little cracks start forming. Every memory that surfaces, every reminder of what he lost, every night when silence feels heavier than he expected, those are cracks. And eventually, pride can no longer hold the weight of what's pressing against it. That's when the truth breaks through. Here's the thing about truth. It doesn't shout, it waits. It doesn't fight for recognition, it simply exists. And sooner or later, truth outlasts pride, because pride is temporary, but truth is eternal. He can deny his feelings, he can cover them with distractions, but as time stretches on, the truth of your value will keep pressing against his pride until it collapses. And let's be real. Every man who has ever lost someone of true worth has this breaking point. Some of them won't admit it out loud, but they all reach it. There comes a day when the performance of strength fades, and the reality of weakness sets in. There comes a night when the mask slips, and the pain of regret finally shows its face. That's the moment pride is broken, and once it's broken, it cannot be rebuilt the same way. The power in all of this is that you don't have to break him. Time will. That's why silence and distance are so effective. They starve pride of the fuel it needs. Your attention, your energy, your presence. Without those, pride weakens, and the longer it stands alone, the more it starts to collapse under the pressure of reality. Now, understand this. Pride breaking down doesn't just happen for him. It happens for you too. Because when you choose not to chase, not to beg, not to compete with his ego, you're also breaking your own pride. You're proving to yourself that you don't need validation from someone else to stand tall. You're showing yourself that your worth doesn't depend on his recognition. That's strength. That's real power. Philosophically, pride is a false god. It promises control, but it delivers emptiness. It tells him he's strong, but it leaves him weak. And when time finally takes pride apart, what's left is humility. And humility is the soil where truth grows. Only then does he see clearly. Only then does he face reality. Only then does he understand that the very thing he dismissed is the very thing he can't replace. So don't fight his pride, don't argue with it, don't compete with it, leave it alone. Pride is loud in the beginning, but time is patient and time is undefeated. Eventually, pride will bow. Eventually, pride will break. Eventually, he'll have to face what he tried so hard to avoid, the truth of your worth. Memory is a powerful thing. It doesn't just record our lives. It shapes how we feel about them long after the moment has passed. And here's the truth. The longer someone goes without you, the sharper memory becomes. At first, memory feels soft, like a distant picture, but as time stretches, memory hardens. It becomes vivid, detailed, and undeniable. It stops being a thought and starts being an experience relived. When you step back, he doesn't just lose you in the present. He's left with memories of you that won't let go. The way you made him laugh, the way your presence brought peace in chaos, the way you made him feel seen when the world overlooked him. Those memories don't fade. In fact, they intensify because the brain has nothing new to replace them with. He can try to distract himself, he can try to move on, but memory always has a way of resurfacing when the noise dies down. Psychologists call this emotional imprinting. Certain people leave such a strong mark on your life that their absence doesn't erase them. It actually engraves them deeper. That's what happens with you. Every detail, every small moment, every little act of kindness becomes amplified in hindsight. And in his loneliness, those memories stop being comforting and start being haunting. Think about it. When you hear an old song, you don't just hear the notes. You feel where you were, who you were with, what it meant at the time. That's memory. Now imagine that song isn't just music, it's a person. That's what you become when you're gone. A trigger for emotion, a reminder of something real, something irreplaceable. And every time he thinks of you, it's not a passive thought. It's a re-experience. That's why memory hurts more than silence. Silence is empty, but memory is alive. Here's the painful part for him. Memory doesn't let him rewrite the story. In the moment, he could act tough. He could downplay your importance. He could let pride convince him he was fine, but memory doesn't play by pride's rules. Memory brings back the truth exactly as it was. It doesn't filter, it doesn't flatter, it doesn't lie. It reminds him over and over of who you were and what you meant. And the longer the distance, the stronger those memories become, because memory in isolation doesn't just revisit the past, it exaggerates it. Loneliness has a way of intensifying everything. When he's surrounded by people, maybe he can drown it out. But when he's alone, memory takes the stage, and the silence becomes a screen where those memories play on repeat. That's why absence isn't just about space, it's about reflection. It's about him being forced to sit with the highlight reel of what he lost. From a philosophical standpoint, memory is proof of impact. We don't remember things that didn't matter. We don't hold on to people who left no imprint. The very fact that he can't escape the thought of you is evidence that you mattered more than he ever admitted. And that realization, when it comes through memory, cuts deeper than any confrontation ever could. Because you're not there reminding him, his own mind is doing the work. Now, here's the power in all of this. Memory is not something you have to control. You don't need to plant reminders. You don't need to orchestrate moments to make him miss you. Life has already done that. The history you shared is enough, and the longer he goes without you, the louder those memories will become. They'll creep in when he least expects it. When he's at dinner, when he's driving, when he's lying awake at night. Memory doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up, and this is where patience becomes your strength. Don't rush to check if he's remembering. Don't step in to see if the lesson is working. Trust that memory always works, because memory is tied to the deepest parts of the human heart. And when a person has been imprinted on someone's heart, absence doesn't erase them, it carves them even deeper. So when you find yourself wondering, does he even think of me anymore? The answer is yes. He does. Maybe not every second, maybe not in ways you can see, but memory is working on him. It's chiseling away at the walls of his pride. It's replaying the moments he thought he could dismiss. It's forcing him to face the reality of what life feels like without you. And eventually, those memories turn from nostalgia into regret. And regret is heavy. Regret reshapes the way a man sees the past, and it reshapes the way he thinks about the future. That's the cost of losing someone who mattered. That's the power of memory. The hardest thing for most people to accept is that their greatest power often comes in doing nothing. We live in a world where we're taught to chase, to explain, to argue, to prove ourselves. When someone pulls away, the instinct is to run after them, to remind them of your value, to fight to be seen. But here's the truth. Your strength doesn't come from pursuit. It comes from stepping back. It comes from letting go. It comes from allowing time to do the work that words never could. Letting go isn't weakness. It isn't surrender, it's power. Because when you let go, you shift the balance. You stop playing on his terms and you start standing on your own. You're no longer reacting to his moves. You're letting him react to your absence. That's not loss of control. That's reclaiming control. When you step back, you're not abandoning the story. You're handing it over to time. And time, as we've already seen, has a way of breaking pride, sharpening awareness, and amplifying memory. But it can't do its work if you keep interfering. If you rush back and every time he feels discomfort, you rob him of the very lesson he needs to learn. By not letting go, you actually delay his understanding of your worth. Philosophically, this is about trust. Not trust in him, but trust in life, trust in yourself, trust in the process. You have to believe that what is real will reveal itself. You don't need to force clarity. You don't need to stage reminders of your value. The value is already there. It's baked into the history, into the memories, into the way you touched his life. Letting go is simply giving space for that truth to rise to the surface. Now, I know letting go feels counterintuitive. It feels unnatural to watch someone slip away without reaching for them. But the paradox of love, of connection, of human worth is this. Sometimes the only way to be truly seen is to stop showing up. Sometimes the only way to be recognized is to remove yourself, because presence can be ignored, but absence cannot. Think about it. When the lights are always on, you forget they're there, but when the power cuts off, you realize how much you depended on it. That's what letting go does. It turns off the switch. It forces someone to notice the darkness, to feel the void, to recognize the value of what they once overlooked. And here's where the strength truly lies. By letting go, you're not just teaching him, you're teaching yourself. You're proving that you don't have to beg for love, you don't have to chase respect, you don't have to lower yourself to be seen. You are enough exactly as you are. And by standing in silence, you're saying, if you cannot see it, then I will not waste my life trying to make you. That's dignity. That's self-respect. That's the kind of strength that changes everything. Psychologically, when you let go, you also shift the burden. Right now, he may believe the decision was his. He may believe he's the one in control. But the moment you stop reaching, the moment you stop trying, the weight transfers. Suddenly, the silence is his to carry. Suddenly, the absence is his to wrestle with. Suddenly, the memories and the regret belong to him, not you. And that's how time breaks him. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. And the beauty of letting go is that it sets you free too. You don't have to sit in anxiety, wondering if you're enough. You don't have to exhaust yourself proving your value. You don't have to lose yourself trying to hold on to someone else. Letting go is liberation. It says, I trust my worth. I trust time. I trust that if you can't see me, that's your loss, not mine. So understand this. Letting go is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your power. Because when you release what isn't holding you with the same strength, you make space for what truly will. and whether that means he learns his lesson and comes back humbled, or life moves you forward to something greater. Either way, you win. So stop fearing the silence, stop fearing the distance, stop fearing what will happen if you let go. Trust it, because the truth is, your worth has never depended on his recognition. Your power has never come from his validation. Your strength has always been in your ability to walk away, to hold your ground, and to let time do what time always does, reveal the truth.